Tired of boring salads? Get ready to fall in love with this fall harvest salad. Packed with seasonal flavors and nutrients, this delicious salad is perfect for your fall meal prep. All right, so let's get started with our fall harvest salad. It's packed with lots of ingredients that are not only delicious, but are also really nutritious as well. So the first thing we're gonna start with is some sweet potatoes. And I'm gonna chop this up and then I'm gonna pop them in the oven and I'm gonna roast them. But I wanna tell you why you might wanna add more sweet potatoes to your diet. All right, it's always hard for me to chop and talk at the same time, but I wanna make sure I'm giving you guys the tea. Okay, so what I love about sweet potatoes is a few things. The sweet potatoes are a really great source of B vitamins, vitamin B6 in particular. And the reason why this is important is because vitamin B6 helps with the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin. So serotonin is one of those neurotransmitters that of course make you feel really good and make you feel really happy. Now with sweet potatoes, sometimes I chop them in different sizes. It just depends on what I'm feeling. Sometimes I might chop them into like little cubes and sometimes I might actually chop them into circles. Today I'm kind of in a cube mood, so I'm gonna go ahead and just chop these into cubes like so. All right, so we have our sweet potatoes chopped up. The other thing that I love about sweet potatoes is that it's known as a grounding food. So grounding foods are foods that are grown close to the earth. You're probably wondering, why should I even care about this? Well, here is why. So Ayurvedic medicine, which is one of the world's oldest whole body healing systems, teaches us that there's 7 different chakras. The root chakra is one of them. The root chakra represents earth-centered energy. And when you eat foods that grow close to the ground like sweet potatoes, it carries that energy and it actually passes it on to you. Pretty cool, right? So if things in your life are feeling really hectic or unstable or really stressful, then you might want to reach for some of these grounding foods, because this may help to create a feeling of stability. So some other grounding foods are beets, which I love. You can actually check out this video right here that shows you how to make a delicious beetroot latte. I'm telling you guys, this is so good. Other than beets, other grounding foods include carrots as well as onions. All right, so let's roast these sweet potatoes. Now, in terms of what I put on my sweet potatoes, again, totally up to you. This is what I do. I like to keep it simple. So I can add some olive oil, and I'm just gonna actually measure it just by the cupful. Again, like it's not like exact science here, okay? So I'm just gonna measure it by the cupful. I usually put, for this amount of sweet potatoes, maybe about a tablespoon of olive oil. So just put it on there like that. You can mix around the olive oil if you want and then put on your spices, but just for the purposes of this video, recording this video right now, I'm just gonna add in my seasonings on top. So I'm just gonna start with just a little bit of salt, like that, tiny bit of salt, cinnamon, okay? Now what I love about cinnamon is that cinnamon has like a little bit like of a sweet taste. So this is how you can avoid actually adding sugar to your sweet potatoes. And I know some people add some sugar to it when they roast it, but if you add cinnamon, it's gonna give you that natural sweet flavor. It's also really good for blood sugar regulation as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna add is some rosemary. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I love adding rosemary to sweet potatoes. There's just something about that earthy vibe with the cinnamon and like those spices. It's just so good. So I'm gonna add that on. And lastly, I'm just gonna add some of this, which is just some nutmeg. And I add maybe about a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg to it, like so. I know some people have a love-hate relationship with nutmeg, but I love it and I find it works really well, again, with something like a rosemary. So I'm just gonna kind of stir this all around, just gonna toss it around on the baking sheet. And then we just wanna pop it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and we just wanna make sure that we're turning it halfway through that 20-minute time. All right, so I'm gonna pop that in the oven for about 20 minutes. So while that's in the oven, the next thing we wanna make is we wanna make some quinoa. What I love about quinoa is that it is a great source of protein, which a lot of people aren't really getting enough plant-based sources of protein. And that's why I really like quinoa, because it is a great source of that plant-based protein. The other thing that's great about quinoa is that it's rich in 2 really important nutrients like iron as well as magnesium. Both iron and magnesium may help to manage your stress levels. So here's why that's important. There are actually certain nutrients that get depleted in your body during times of stress. Iron and magnesium are 2 of them. So you definitely want to make sure, especially if you're a woman, that you're having these vital minerals in your diet as much as you possibly can. Okay, so next I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna add the water. Now, what I've done here is I've added a combo of water as well as vegetable broth, just to give it a little bit more flavor. So I do about half and half. Now, in terms of how much quinoa I'm doing here, I'm just gonna add about ½ teaspoon of sea salt. And I'm gonna bring this to a boil. So the great thing, here is the trick actually of making great quinoa. So let's say if you're making 1 cup of quinoa. I know people talk about a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you're making 1 cup of quinoa or 1 cup of rice, add 2 cups of water. But I actually do 1 3/4 cup water if I'm making 1 cup of quinoa. Here's why. When you do that, it actually makes the quinoa a little bit fluffier, has the same effect in your rice as well. So just put just a little bit less water than 2 cups if you're gonna do that 1 cup of your grain, so the quinoa or the rice. All right, so I'm just gonna stir everything together, and then I'm just gonna wait until this comes to a boil. Now, once that comes to a nice roaring boil, what you wanna do is just cover that, lower the heat, and cook for 15 minutes. Now, if you're trying to eat healthy on a budget, don't let quinoa discourage you, because I actually found this quinoa, it's actually organic quinoa. I found it in my dollar store, and sometimes you'd be amazed at the foods that you can actually find in the dollar store. So if you're shopping on a budget, look in places like the dollar store, your bulk food stores. Those are actually really great places if you're trying to eat healthy on a budget to source your ingredients. Okay, so in my salads, I don't know about you, but I always like to have some crunchiness in my salad. So we're gonna get some crunchiness in the salad for some apples. We're also gonna get a burst of sweetness from these in-season apples, and also some pecans. So the pecans I want to leave until the last part, but I like to just toast them to give them a little bit more flavor, and then I'll just sprinkle them on the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is just chop up this apple. So apples, as we know, are a great source of vitamin C, and that's really important to keep your immune system strong, especially as we're heading into a new season like fall. Speaking of fall, eating in-season foods like apples will allow your body to adjust to the changing climate. This will also help to defend your body against illnesses that are typical at this time of the year. You may also be getting more nutrients when you eat in-season foods. Research shows us that foods are more nutritious when they're picked and eaten in season. All right, so we're almost there. So to tie the salad together, we have a beautiful apple cider vinaigrette. So it starts off with a base of olive oil. Next, I'm gonna add some apple cider vinegar, a little bit of raw honey. Make sure all of that gets in there. A little bit of Dijon mustard, which we'll put in next. Okay, and I'll finish it off with some salt and pepper. Now, what I love about this dressing is that it has a really nice tangy, sweet flavor. That's just what I love in my salad dressings. And also, it's much better if you can make your salad dressings at home, because a lot of store-bought salad dressings are very, very high in added sugar. So we really want to make sure that we're minimizing the amount of added sugar in our diet as much as possible. I'm going to switch to a fork just to make this a lot easier. Now, I think my favorite ingredient in the salad dressing has to be the apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar helps with digestion. The reason why this is important is because you could be eating all of the healthy foods, but if your digestion is off, your body is not going to be able to absorb the nutrients from the foods that you're eating. So you definitely want to make sure that you're adding in foods to your diet like apple cider vinegar that's going to help with your digestion. High fiber foods is another one, and that's why I'm going to be adding in some chickpeas into the mix as well. Okay, so chickpeas are one of the foods that were instrumental in my 30-pound weight loss. The reason why is because they're a great source of both protein and fiber. I love eating foods where you kind of get 2 nutrients or 2 major nutrients in one, like chickpeas. This is also a low budget friendly food as well. So foods that are high in both protein and fiber help to balance your blood sugar levels, which will also help with those food cravings as well. So eating high fiber, high protein foods like chickpeas can be a really, really key ally for you if you're trying to lose weight or if you're just trying to balance your blood sugar levels. All right, so now it's time for my favorite part, assembling everything together. This is actually a really great salad for meal prep because it has these individual components like apples, like quinoa, like sweet potatoes. So what you can do is actually just store these ingredients in separate containers, and that way you can build your salad throughout the week. It will also stay fresher that way as well.